I'm Chris Bowen, co-founder, director of EVO Hockey. Plus, we've got Omar Shibli, who's the other co-founder and director. At EVO, we are very passionate about connecting the best players and coaches in the world with youth players. And we're very fortunate to have Garreth Ewing with us today, just to run through a few things of your career so far, Garreth. So FIH World Coach of the Year nominee, South African men's head coach 2019 to 2022, Tokyo Olympics 2022 head coach, Commonwealth Games head coach 2022, and former coach of University of North Carolina. So welcome to the chat.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's awesome to be here.
So let's start with, talk us through your experience of coaching the national side at Tokyo Olympics.
I mean, it's an amazing experience to go to a global event like that, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a huge box tick for me in terms of personal ambitions. But at the end of the day, I was there for the players and the team. It was so amazing for us to get there. We had to qualify through winning the Africa Cup, but also through going to the World Series finals in India. So it was a really tough experience for us qualifying. And of course, all the delays and the anxiety around COVID made things even more difficult. So it was a fantastic achievement just to get there, and then for the guys to really play such amazing hockey and announce a group of world-class players to a global audience was a great privilege to be a part of that.
So talking on the COVID front, obviously it impacted the world the way it did. How did you as a head coach manage to prepare the team for one of the biggest experiences of their lives and yours?
Absolutely. It was tough. And of course we did a lot of stuff online, and we spent a huge amount of time working through cultural aspects and really getting to know each other a lot better. In certain respects, having the delay benefited us because it gave us that chance to get into deep conversations around culture, and that was really, really special. Fortunately, we were allowed to get into a lockdown bubble situation for our last bit of training. We trained for 3 weeks, and we convinced a couple of local teams to join us in the lockdown, which was a huge sacrifice on their behalf. And we did our best with what we could do. We played games, we trained together, and we stayed together in a bubble and got ourselves ready to go and jumped through all the hoops of testing and screening and quarantine and got ourselves to Tokyo.
Can I ask you, from what you were saying, it sounds like the process of getting to Tokyo was almost a victory in itself for the South African squad. So how did you then go shift that mindset to, okay, we've got to the Olympics, we're done, that's our success, to then, okay, how do we perform at the Olympics? How do you shift that mindset?
Well, the journey with this team has always been that we're not just going to a tournament to be there and pat ourselves on the back. Obviously, one of the very few fully amateur teams left in the high performance category of international teams. We said we wanted to set a new standard for ourselves. We want teams to worry about us and to fear us, and we want to impact on the tournament. So we have a style of play that it's very much based on our strengths, our really strong counter-attack, unbelievably skillful players and speed, and being willing to play and have a go at every team we play against. So it wasn't too difficult to shift our mindset, actually. Guys were really, really ready to be more successful, and full credit to them. They bought into that mindset, and they jumped into it with both feet. And I think that showed in the way we played. 1 or 2 really good results for us, but overall our style of hockey was something that people enjoyed, and I think we maybe became everybody's second team to support at the Olympics, which for us was very special.
You as a head coach, how important is that identity coming through in the teams that you coach?
It's really important. The longer I've been involved in coaching, the more I've come to understand that having a team of players who feel they belong and who feel that this is their team that they own has become more and more important to me. And it was a privilege for me to see the players evolving as a team and growing as individuals, not just as hockey players. So it's really important. It's really valuable. And I think it's the new main thing in coaching, to be perfectly honest. It's not about, the X's and O's, they're important, and the technical and physical is important, but being strong culturally and wanting to be part of a team is becoming almost, at least as important as all those other things.
So how do you carry that balance? So between making it feel like a team for the players that they own whilst putting your own coaching stamp on it? How do you tread that tightrope?
It's always a tightrope. That's the right word. The first thing to do is show vulnerability from the point of view of being the head coach and saying, I'm not here to bring all the answers. In fact, I don't have all the answers. This is something we're going to discover together. And leaning into your support staff, leaning into the opinions of the players. The players are the ones who lead innovation. The players are the ones with the imagination out on the field. And it's getting everybody to understand that they have a role to play and that it's not just one person at the front of the room. I might make the final call if there's something in the balance that needs to change or that we need to tie down. But it's the journey of getting to that point that's so important and that everybody has to be a part of.
So looking at journeys, talk us through your journey about, what you went through in becoming head coach.
Yeah, look, this is my 30th season of hockey, and I'm very lucky that I've spent more than 15 years of that at a high performance level. I think I should mention here, Chris, that I coached you as a schoolboy and as a club player and as a provincial player in very many teams. So, and we now have the same hairdresser, so that tells you how old you're getting as well. But
over my mentors. So
I feel very blessed to have been involved in hockey from grassroots all the way up. My first ever coaching appointment was my high school's under 14 team, my old high school's under 14 team, and I've risen through the ranks. I've been a video analyst, I've been a manager, I've been a coach, I've been an assistant coach. I've coached men and women, boys and girls. And the culmination of my journey so far, of course, was the Olympics and the Pro League and the Commonwealth Games and working with the senior national team. So, I've paid my dues. I've learned a lot along the way, made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I consider all that part of the journey to where I've got to now.
Looking at that journey and coaching junior players and senior players, what have you noticed that you would identify as constant attributes with players' development? What do you look for as a coach in a player, and how does that vary between youth and senior?
I think the one common denominator of players who are going to be successful as they rise through the ranks is that ability to compete and that willingness to compete, and the understanding that comes with a lot of hard work. And players that love to play, doesn't matter where they fit in, whether they are juniors just picking up a stick or whether they are a senior international playing their 200th game, they still just love to play and they still want to get out there and they want to learn new skills and they want to compete and they want to play games and they want to be on the pitch. That is something that you can't teach somebody. That's what something they're born with. The rest you can teach, and the rest everybody can achieve based on their basic ability and their talent levels. But love for the game and competitiveness is something that I always keep an eye out for.
So what would be your ideology or opinion, your understanding of what high performance training is? And that can range from juniors all the way to seniors, going through the ranks, etc.
For me, it's a really good question because high performance can be where you're at. It doesn't just have to be at the pinnacle of the game. So your willingness to receive coaching, but then your willingness to apply what you've learned and your willingness to take that into a game situation, for me, that's really important. And for me, that's what high performance is about. It's about taking skill into the real world and using those skills with good decisions. And you can do that at any level of the game. The consequences just increase as you rise higher. So really for me, it's, yes, we're going to teach you something, or I'm going to teach you something, but it's what you then do with it and how you apply it that's going to mark you as high performance or training in a high performance mindset.
So talk us through your overall philosophy as a head coach. It sounds more like an interview than anything else, but what is your, how would you sum up your approach and philosophy to your coaching style, your tactical, direction? How would you sum that up?
So the first thing I believe is that I don't know everything, and that it's my duty to make sure that the players receive the maximum input from a whole staff of people. And we're going to find a team that's going to give them the input they need. So it's not about me, it's about everybody involved. The second thing is that I'm just there to provide a framework. It's your job to go out and make good decisions and to work hard and play the game. And I'm going to empower you to make those decisions. I'm going to empower you within the tactical framework to get out there, make decisions. If you make a mistake, we're going to cover that base because we're going to know our what ifs and how we need to fix things when things go wrong. But ultimately, I'm going to empower you to get out there and play the game to the best of your ability and to use your talent to the best of your ability. That's my job as a coach.
I think that leads on really well to, say you're coaching players at various levels, and how would you go about supporting them coping with nerves, with stress, aspects that could possibly impact their performance negatively?
This is a part of the game that I'm learning more and more about all the time. And for me, it's still to remember why you play the game and what your roots of the game are, and that's about loving the game and loving the experience of being with your teammates and understanding that things are not always going to go your way, but that the harder you work, the more you enjoy yourself and the more you are aware of the people around you and what they can bring to the party, the more likely you are to not feel that pressure just being on your shoulders. So it's about that team element. It's about being aware of yourself and understanding that the people around you are the ones that are going to make you great, not yourself.
And I mean, the age-old, selection situation, every player's been through it. You as a coach have been through it. It's, what advice could you offer players who are, looking at going through selection, who have possibly had a negative impact of selection? And I suppose this could tie into the nerve and stress element that we just spoke about, more from a off the pitch perspective. What advice could you offer players that are, either preparing for this or going through it at the moment?
So it's interesting, and something I've been thinking about tied to some of Simon Sinek's thoughts is, the selection process may be a finite game, but the hockey journey is an infinite game. And what you learn from a failure or a setback is actually going to equip you for greater success further down the line. So important to remember that this is a long haul process. Hockey is a lifetime game, and the initial setback is something to grow and learn from, and to embrace the disappointment, understand the disappointment, but know that it's not the end of a road. It's just going to be opening the door to something better and newer further down the line.
So if we flip this onto you slightly, how have you handled nerves? How have you handled those stressful situations from a coaching perspective? I mean, I suppose from the outside looking in, if we're watching a game, we're watching the players, let's be honest here, and we're trying to understand more what the players are going through. But from your perspective as a coach, how have you handled the nerves, pre, during, and post big games and big tournaments?
So I worry if I'm not feeling nervous. That means that I'm not tuned into where I need to be. So it's embracing some of the anxiety and stress around the position, but also being able to contextualize it and not take it into the rest of your daily life. It's a challenge I've faced up to and not always been successful with. and it's something I'm still learning about in terms of my own stress response. But it's understanding that that's part of the game, and understanding that there's parts you can control. But once the game starts, actually, the coach's role is basically on, it's really far on the back burner. You can have a little bit of influence in your halftime, but at the end of the day, you've got to trust your players to do the job. I think the best advice I can give to any coach is don't forget to enjoy watching your players express themselves and enjoy themselves out on the pitch, because you've helped them to do that and you've created a space for them to excel. So appreciate it. It's not about you.
Do you ever, in those situations, find yourself feeling helpless, in the fact that you've put together the game plan, you've assisted the players, as you just said, it's like you got to trust them. But ultimately, once the game starts, the influence is not on you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it is like that sometimes. You get really anxious and you kind of start to live every moment. And then if you get too micro focused on one little mistrap or one small decision, you lose the big picture. So it's really important that you understand what you can and can't control. You can probably influence the people sitting behind you in the dugout in terms of the inspiration you give them before they go out for their rotation. And not get overly emotionally involved in it. Love the experience and appreciate the experience, but don't make value judgments on yourself or on your players as human beings based on what happens out on the pitch.
So how have you dealt with, game plans, situations, perhaps, the players haven't performed, which is realistic in a high performance environment? You as a coach, how do you handle that? And then even a game plan that didn't work, and then how would you support the players in those moments?
Look, the first thing I do is I own it. It's ultimately my decision how we finally played the game, as much as we're talking about a team space. So I say to them, you did your best, you did the job, you worked out, you went out there and worked as hard as you can. If there's accountability to be spoken about in terms of decision-making or discipline, these are things that we can unpack. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody plays the game to not do their best. And perhaps they need to learn how to perceive of what their best is, but everybody's going out there and looking to win. So come at it from a space of good faith, come at it from a space of learning, so that the next time we go out, we can take some of those new lessons on board and we can be even better next time.
So let's look at, we'll go back to the, you looking at players, and especially if we look at the youth, you look at a young player now, what attributes are you looking for in particular, purely from a visual perspective? If you saw a player playing, you were like, yes, that's my type of player. You've been around the game for a long time, as you said, you've got 30 seasons under your belt. You've seen the game from most perspectives, or if not all perspectives right now. The way that the game is changing, culturally, technically, tactically, what are the most important things for youth players to be looking at right now, in your opinion?
I think it goes to a point, it's still about that basics of, can you play with your head up so you can make good decisions? Can you handle the ball in a way that allows you to see your next pass and your next decision? So that foundation should never go away. The game's getting faster, so can you move around the pitch quickly? Can you pass the ball quickly around the pitch? These things are important. And what is the X factor that somebody's bringing? It doesn't have to be this amazing skill where you can eliminate 5 players and go into the circle and shoot a goal. Is it, can you complete every single pass? Can you make sure your opposite player never gets the ball in defense? And what are you doing when you don't have the ball? I think it's very easy to focus on the player who's got the ball, but it's much harder to see what players are doing when they don't have it. Are they getting ready to defend? Are they supporting the ball carrier? Is their body language and are they looking around? Are they playing the game in their minds as much as with their bodies? It's almost intangible, but it's something that you pick up with a little bit of experience, I think.
So if I can ask you about perhaps the other side of that coin, there'll be players who are watching this who are maybe going to things where they're looking to get selected for things, looking to get recruited. Are there any things that you see in players when you're watching those types of things that throw up red flags? Is there anything that players should be trying to be aware of that coaches or selectors might see and think, they're a very skillful player, but maybe they're not for me?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of things that spring to mind when I think about that is you're always being assessed. So how do you carry yourself off the field? How do you speak to people? How do you look after your equipment? How do you respond to the people who are supporting you? And then how do you respond to adversity in any situation, whether you're on the field? Are you fixated on the umpire? Are you fixated? Do you make negative comments to your teammates? Are you 100% there to help the team to win, or are you 100% there just to help yourself to win? I always think people who try to get selected and recruited often don't, because it's actually the work you've done long before you get to that moment that's going to define you for that recruiter. So a very long way of answering your question, but everybody is looking at you all the time. Think of yourself as living your values and your attitude as a player all the time, not just when you think people are watching you.
So interesting about that is, I suppose the analogy could be that we spoke about the preparation you guys went through to get to Tokyo, and kind of when you're there, you got to trust the processes. Just looking at kids nowadays, especially youth players coming through the systems all over the world, how important is preparation in getting themselves ready for whether it's a recruitment event, whether it's a national tournament, whether it's a regional tournament? How much emphasis would you put on the preparation side of that, that timeline?
Deliberate preparation is how I would describe it. If you have a goal and you have an objective in mind, that's part of your finite game that you're playing because you have an objective that you're aiming for. But it should also be about your infinite game, which is your lifestyle and your mindset, which should be about everything you do in life, not just about your hockey match. Going back to the preparation for a hockey game, if you want to be recruited, how proactive are you with your communication? How proactive are you with your training? How proactive are you with your diet, with your inputs that you go and look for your extra inputs? It's not just about what your coach is telling you twice a week. It's what you're doing on the other days when nobody's around. And I know that's a cliche, but it's really, really true. So, identify what you want to achieve and then work out how you're going to get there and follow those steps as deliberately as you can.
So what advice would you give to youth players and who are starting out in three different scenarios here? One is complete beginner, never played before, first experience. The next level is kind of breaking through. So that's, regional or representation levels, being selected, recruited, etc. And the last bit is the established player, the one that's been there a while, they've experienced quite a few things. How do they stay motivated to keep pushing on in their proverbial career?
The first one's easy. Learn as much as you can and have as much fun as you can. Just get out there and find and get a feel for the game and realize why so many people love it. The second one for the player rising through the ranks is you can always work harder than you think you can and keep pushing yourself. But again, don't forget to enjoy yourself, because if you put too much emphasis on the final destination, you're not going to enjoy the journey. And the third one for the established player is think about those people rising through the ranks who are now working their asses off to take your spot. You've got to make sure you value it and appreciate it and keep working just as hard as you ever did before.
So, we're obviously really looking forward to getting out to the US and experiencing, different cultures, different setups, different players, different methodologies, etc. And obviously, you spent some time out there coaching in the US. Can you tell us a bit about that experience?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to work in two D1 programs at UNC and at Northeastern. And little bit different. One was in a big college town in the countryside, essentially, and the other one was in Boston. So I got this different campus experience and different attitude experience, which was really, really amazing. But just the work ethic and the opportunity to be really serious and train really hard and compete really hard was something that I've taken away from those 3 years that I got to spend in the USA, and just the exposure to this highly professionalized system. And it's a great privilege as a player to be a part of it. You'll work harder than you ever thought you could, but you're going to gain so much as a person and as an athlete. So yeah, really, really looking forward to getting back to the USA to just get a little taste of that again.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Well, that's pretty much it from our side. Just want to say thank you very much for your time. It's been awesome to have a conversation with you and have you on board with us coming over in July this year. So yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks very much for your time.
Guys, thank you. I really can't wait for July. It's going to be an amazing experience.